not difficult deciding what you're going to wear the next day. Always the same. Makes it easy, actually. So the meditation that we just did is a shamatha, or single focused, or calm abiding, or concentration meditation. Many names for the same thing, where we focus our mind on an object. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to train our minds to be less distracted. And then eventually, when the distraction settles down, to be more clear. Okay? So stable and clear. So that's the idea with that kind of meditation. There's another meditation where we just sit like this. And that's a meditation on the mind itself. For most people, more difficult. Some people, they find it easier. Most people, more difficult. And in that meditation, you try to stay in the present, wide open, without fixating on anything. Now, some people say, we got to get rid of thoughts. You ever tried that? Yeah? You get filled up with a lot more thoughts. You try to push them out. So you don't push. You just observe. You try not to engage. I mentioned that before. Okay? You just allow what's happening and try focusing on nothing. That's in the tradition of Zen Buddhism. That's in the tradition of Chan, from where Zen comes from. Chan is from China. Zen is from Japan. It's in the Tibetan traditions of what we call Mahamudra, which literally means the great seal. It's a technical term, but it's a meditation on the mind, the nature of the mind itself. And Dzogchen, in the Ming tradition in Tibetan Buddhism, called the Great Perfection. All these are similar, that you just stay in the present, you stay with the awareness itself, not with anything. You don't focus or fixate on anything. So it depends on the kind of meditation. Yes, Jerry, do we have a mic, please? Thank you.
When you meditate and you were your MRI was being done, what did they find that was actually occurring in the brain? Anything that you can describe?
Yeah, they found there was nothing there. So they asked me politely to leave. They found two things, basically. The studies, I was a subject for research at the University of Wisconsin-Madison a few years ago. Several times, I went back several times, and also at the University of Princeton University. And they studied us with three different modalities. One is functional fMRI, functional MRI. MRI is this big machine, it's a donut, it's a huge magnet, and you kind of go on a bed. Some of you have seen it, and you get in it. And it makes a lot of noise. It goes bam, 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 bam. And they put earplugs and headphones, and still it's bam, 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 bam. And they told us we had three different meditations to do, so they would talk to us, we could hear through this thing, and they would tell us, okay, now meditate on this meditation, that meditation, or stop meditating. And so often I was in that scanner for about 2 or 2.5 hours at a time. If you're claustrophobic, it doesn't work. They strap you in, you can't move. If you got an itch on your nose, forget it. And you're in this very closed place. But because we spent most of the time meditating, I found it actually delightful. It was a nice respite. And there are some photos. I don't have them here. I don't think. If we had time, I could look around at my little phone drive. Anyway, I'd have to look. Of me coming out of the scanner, huge smile. So that's one thing. What they found was the prefrontal cortex, PFC, which is the front of the brain behind the front of the cortex behind the forehead. Okay, was more developed in long-term meditators than non. Okay, and this means the bottom line was at 10,000 hours or more. Some people had 60,000 hours of meditation experience. Okay, so in that range. And the prefrontal cortex anatomically was more developed, and functionally was also more developed. And the prefrontal cortex is very, very important because it's sometimes called the executive control center. Okay? It helps with planning, even things like imagination, creativity, some of it happens there. Some kind of self-regulation, okay, in terms of, kind of maintaining a balance emotionally. There was this famous case about 100 years ago of Phineas Gage. He was working on the railroads. You know this, huh? He was working on the railroads, And they used to dig a hole, many of them, and they put powder down there to make explosions to help build the railroad. And they would put the powder down, and then on top of it, they put a bunch of sand. Then they had these rods that were about 3-4 feet tall, an inch and a half, I think it was an inch and a quarter in diameter, steel rod, okay? And they pound the sand down, okay? And then they'd all leave, and then they'd have a way to explode, okay, to blast the area. Well, Phineas one day was a little daydreaming. He wasn't so mindful. So they put down the powder, and he forgot that they hadn't put down the sand, and he took the rod and started pounding, and the powder exploded. And the rod shot up, it went underneath his mandible, and out the very top of his head. Yeah. And he survived. Yeah, he survived. But he was not the same person. Before this accident, he was church-going. Everyone said he was a very good citizen, good family man, etc., etc. After this accident, he changed completely. He was using profanity, every other word or more, okay, visiting prostitutes, drinking, and turned out to be a very mean, ornery kind of guy. Extremely different. And where did this rod go? Prefrontal cortex, exactly. So that's the opposite, okay? So long-term meditators have developed this area greater than people that don't meditate. So executive control, emotional regulation, planning, things like this, very important area. And the second thing they found was with the electroencephalograph, EEG. I don't have slides, I didn't anticipate this, but here, I have slides, but not here, I'm sorry. But to show this, there were bursts of gamma waves. Gamma waves on an EEG are huge spikes, but they're very short, very high frequency, so they're not kind of rounded out, they're just like this, okay? And this is not when the person was having an epileptic attack, okay? There's no epilepsy going on. And these bursts happen not just in one area of the cortex, but everywhere, right, left, front, back. So this is something that only happened in the long-term meditators during meditation. It did not happen when the long-term meditators were told to rest, and it did not happen in the control group when they were taught a little meditation in either meditation or rest. So only during meditation, long-term meditators. And they don't know exactly what it means, but the hypothesis at this point is synchronicity. What we all learned, those of us that are medical people, healthcare people, when we went through our training, is that the brain can communicate in the cortex maybe a millimeter or two away. That's it. Okay. But what this research is suggesting in long-term meditators during meditation, that there's synchrony in communication across the cortex. So it's quite exciting. The answer is not finished yet. There's still a lot of debate on this, but that's the current thinking. So that's just in a nutshell. Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm convinced with the benefit of meditation, but my question on the consequence, meaning, for example, do monks who meditate a lot have a better well-being or longevity than the general population?
Yeah, I think those studies aren't, certainly finished, but the evidence that we have is that well-being better among those people that meditate a lot versus those that don't. Longevity, not sure. Some of the meditators up where I'm from, I lived 25 years in the base of the Himalayas at about 6,000 feet in Dharamsala. And some of the meditators are higher up, maybe, 8,000 feet. And they live in very simple hermitage huts. They have very poor food. They often don't go to the doctor if they get sick. And they often don't live so long. But they don't care about that so much. They have some idea about continuity. And though they're not at all suicidal, these are some of the happiest people I've ever met in my life. I mean that. But they also look forward to their death because they want to do meditation while they go through the death process to extend so they don't actually die. And some of them have been successful. I've been around some of them in the last few years. They've been successful for several weeks, where the heart stops, the breathing stops, the nurse or doctor says dead. The person's died. And yet they stay fresh. Yeah? There's no rigor mortis, they're flexible, Their complexion is beautiful. Sometimes I've smelled even something that's a little bit like almost very faint flowers or fruit, but a smell I can't recognize, but something like that. If you meditate around in this situation, people often say the meditation is much deeper than usual. So this is called Tukdam. Tuk is the honorific for mind, and Dam is sacred, so sacred mind. Okay? So, yes, well-being, definitely. Longevity, they don't see this life as the end of it, right? They see this continuity of mind. So, and even though His Holiness the Dalai Lama tells them all the time, take care of your health, they tend to neglect it. So I'm not sure about the longevity issue. Well-being, definitely better. Yes, yes, please.
First of all, thank you for the work you do in the world, and thank you, Barbara. You're awesome. I have a question that's personal, and I'm hoping that we can get to somewhat of the core of it in the first try. Why the robes? What purpose do they serve for you personally?
Yeah, I've been involved with Buddhism a long time. Since I was 14, I got very interested. And then for a good 30 years, I've been practicing, really serious about it. And for a number of years, I was doing lots of meditation. And so I was living kind of like the life of a monk. I did a 3-year retreat, and during that 3-year retreat, we weren't actually monks or nuns, but we took on the robes and, abided by many of the vows. So it was a natural, after the 3-year retreat was over, to become a monk. And I just had to find a lama to ordain me. It was His Holiness the Dalai Lama, but had a close relationship for a long, long time. And he ordained me. Many of my friends and family members said, we thought you would have been a monk earlier. So it was a small steps progression kind of thing.
Why today?
Why today?
I understand why that, but why today?
It's just a wonderful lifestyle. It's a wonderful lifestyle.
Just the robes.
Well, I'm a monk. Yeah, just tradition. I mean, from the time of the Buddha. And I see myself following in the footsteps of the Buddha. Not very well, but doing the best I can. And so I cut my hair and wear the robes. It's just part of our tradition. It doesn't mean much. I mean, the most important thing is what happens here. And that is independent of your hairstyle, but you have short hair. or your robes or your clothing. That's kind of, it works well for me. And, I found myself extremely blessed, my life extremely blessed, tremendous gratitude. And part of that has to do with being a monk and wearing the robes and being a monk. And, it really comes down to keeping vows. A bunch of vows to keep. That's what's important about monasticism. The robes are less important, but it's just our tradition. I live with a lot of monks, and if I walked in dressed like you are, they wouldn't like it. Yeah. But I don't do it for that, really. I'm just very comfortable. It works for me well. Thank you. Yes. 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 We have a few hands in the back, please.
Thank you for the wonderful talk, Doctor. Whenever we see somebody meditating, we have this image of a person closing their eyes and doing the meditation. But today you asked us to open our eyes and focus on something.
Yep.
But if you do it in the morning, does it matter if we close our eyes or open our eyes?
Doesn't matter much. The reason to keep your eyes open, as I've been taught, is that eventually in your meditation, you'll develop more clarity. Okay? So it's probably better to keep our eyes open, but it's not a big thing. Some people are comfortable and do really well with their eyes closed. Then close your eyes. Yep. Thank you. Yes, way in the back, please.
Thank you very much as well. I had a question if you could talk a little bit about your personal journey through meditation, maybe through routine or any enlightenment or any type of experiences you've had.
Sure, I fall asleep. I get a good sleep. Yeah, I talk to my teacher about that, but generally not to others. That's usually something that you don't want to go blabbing around. And I appreciate the question, but it's not that important what experiences I have or don't have. The fact is that this stuff works. It's been tried and true in the Buddhist tradition 2,600 years, and other traditions longer. So it's kind of like a bestseller that stays on the list for a long, long time. Thank you for the question. Yes, please, this gentleman.
Back in the 70s, I practiced transcendental meditation.
Yes.
TM.
Yes.
What happened to that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't really know. I'm not a TM practitioner myself. I think that other things came by and they got a little jazzy. I mean, Zen Buddhism became kind of popular in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Tibetan Buddhism probably started more in the 70s, started to become a bit popular. And then His Holiness the Dalai Lama has been visiting so many countries regularly, so a lot of people have turned in that direction. I don't know. I don't meet many people that are still today TM practitioners. Sure there are, but I don't meet them very often, so I'm not sure the answer to your question. But I think for all of us, they're stepping stones. Not necessarily that TM is a small step or something, but it may be that we move into other things that we find to be fuller. I mean, I was doing meditation in the Hindu tradition for a number of years, and then I